Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're tackling a really big topic.
Huge, yeah. Very relevant for a lot of people.
Yeah, it touches so many lives. It's about, navigating a relationship when your partner is, well, on that complex path of recovery from addiction.
It's definitely a landscape with its own challenges,
Yeah.
absolutely, but also um, incredible potential for connection, for growth.
Not just for the person in recovery either.
No, exactly. Crucially for the partner, too. It's a journey for both.
And for this deep dive, we've really been digging into Beverly Berg's book, Loving Someone in Recovery. It's subtitled The Answers You Need When Your Partner is Recovering from Addiction.
Yeah, and Berg's perspective is, well, it's really rich. She brings together her clinical work, her own personal journey, too, which is important, and insights from, really powerful therapeutic tools, things like mindfulness, attachment theory, even looking at the neurobiology behind it all.
Right. So our mission here really is to pull out the most essential knowledge, the practical stuff, the tools, those kind of aha moments from the source.
Yeah, distill it down.
Think of it as a way for you, the listener, to quickly get a handle on what's often going on when you're loving someone in recovery. Hopefully armed with some maybe surprising insights and things you can actually, use.
And we're covering a lot of ground from the book, from basic definitions all the way to complex emotional dynamics and even specific exercises.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Where do we start?
Well, I think we have to start with the language, getting the terms clear. The book defines addiction as, a disease
Okay.
involving substances or behaviors. And the key is that the person continues despite, negative consequences. And it tends to get progressively worse if untreated.
Okay, that's clear. And then there's the term codependency. How does Berg frame that? Because that word gets used a lot.
It does. And she frames it, I think, really helpfully. It's about forming your identity around this intense need to be needed.
Like trying to rescue others.
Yeah, often trying to rescue others. Maybe hoping that if you make yourself indispensable, they'll somehow take care of you in return. But the result often is feeling kind of empty or resentful.
That makes sense.
And here's what I think is a really powerful reframe in the book. It moves away from seeing codependency as some kind of fixed identity or even a disease itself.
Yeah.
Instead, it positions it as a learned response, something that develops because of difficult family dynamics, often where kids had to step into caretaking roles for adults way too early.
So it's not who you are inherently, but how you learn to cope.
Exactly. Which is key, because if it's learned, it can be, unlearned or changed. It opens up possibilities.
And sometimes people are dealing with both issues, right?
Yes, the book uses the term double winner for someone who struggles with both addiction and codependency. And it emphasizes recovery is possible for both aspects.
Okay. Now, you mentioned something earlier about unrealistic expectations.
Oh, yes. This is critical. Berg calls it the fantasy spell of recovery.
The fantasy spell? What's that?
It's that often unspoken, maybe even unconscious belief that as soon as someone gets sober or stops the addictive behavior, everything else will just magically click into place.
Right. Like finally they stopped drinking or gambling or whatever it was. Now everything will be perfect. All our problems solved.
Exactly that. But the book is very clear. Hold on. That's just not how it works.
So what's the realistic picture then?
Well, recovery isn't a finish line you cross into, effortless bliss. It's a really complex, ongoing path. It takes consistent hard work.
From both partners.
Absolutely, from both partners. The goal isn't some magical, issue-free relationship. It's more about seeing an upward trend over time, feeling like you're getting better and better at navigating life together.
And conflict is still going to happen.
Oh, absolutely. Conflicts, feeling disconnected sometimes. That's normal in any close relationship, let alone one that's undergoing such a fundamental shift. Expecting it to vanish is part of that fantasy spell.
The book also talks about how our past, like our childhood, really shapes things, doesn't it? This frame of reference idea.
Yes, deeply. How we were raised, especially the relationship model our parents showed us, creates this internal frame. And that frame dictates a lot of our unconscious expectations about partnership.
Okay.
And Berg highlights two common patterns that can emerge from this frame: hyperpositive and hypernegative.
Hyper-positive. That sounds good.
You'd think so. But it can actually be problematic. It might come from parents who are, say, overly indulgent, or maybe they just avoided conflict at all costs, like those old TV families where nothing ever really goes wrong.
Okay, I can picture that.
But it can lead to really unrealistic ideas about relationships. You're just not prepared for the normal bumps in the road.
And the hyper-negative.
That's the flip side. Coming from a background maybe with neglect, harshness, even abuse, this can create, kind of paradoxically, a high tolerance for suffering.
How so?
Well, you might unconsciously recreate what Berg calls the familiar horrible because, well, it feels known, even if it's painful. Or you could swing the other way entirely.
Like zero tolerance for conflict.
Exactly. Becoming hypersensitive, seeing danger in even minor disagreements because your system is just wired for threat.
The book uses an example, right? Kim and Jason.
Yes, it's a really powerful illustration. Kim grew up with parental alcoholism, lots of fighting. She felt she had to care for her sister, her mom.
So a hyper-negative frame.
Definitely. It taught her that love meant sacrifice, putting her partner's needs first, always. So when Jason got into recovery, she saw it as this magic wand. She
Oh.
expected it to transform him into the unconditionally loving, strong protector she never had as a child. That was her fantasy based on her past deprivation.
But Jason's background was different.
Completely. He had a hyper-positive frame. His dad died young. His mom basically put him on a pedestal, doted on him, saw him as perfect,
So he expected Kim to be.
like his mom.
Nope.
Indulgent, always nurturing, never critical.
Wow. So you have these two people, both with their own stuff, coming together with these totally different, deeply ingrained blueprints from their past.
Exactly. And when recovery doesn't magically erase those blueprints, it leads to huge confusion, disappointment, and conflict. The book really stresses you have to become aware of your frame and actively work on it.
Okay, so recognizing the past is key. What comes next? The book shifts focus, right?
It does. It shifts towards building your own personal foundation. This is especially crucial for the partner who might have been caught in those codependent patterns.
And a core tool for that is mindfulness.
Yes, mindfulness is presented as absolutely central, not just for relaxation, though it helps with that, but as a way to lessen reactivity.
Reactivity meaning those knee-jerk emotional responses.
Precisely. And mindfulness helps increase your overall sense of well-being, manage that intense stress that often comes with this territory.
Is there science behind this?
Oh, yeah. Berg mentions research, like studies from Harvard by Sarah Lazar and Britta Holsel. They found that regular mindfulness practice can literally change your brain.
Change your brain.
They observed increases in gray matter in the hippocampus that's linked to learning and memory. And, crucially, decreases in gray matter in the amygdala,
The fear center.
the brain's stress and fear hub, yeah. So it suggests you can actually sort of rewire some of those ingrained emotional patterns through consistent practice.
What does the practice look like? Is it complicated?
Not necessarily. It starts with simple things, like just observing your breath, she calls it, watching, watching, watching. Not trying to fix it, just notice it.
Okay.
Or doing quick check-ins during the day, noticing body sensations, feelings, thoughts, but without judging them, just observing what's there.
And the point is,
The point is to build awareness of your own inner world, to see your reactions more clearly and hopefully break that automatic habit of criticizing everything yourself and your partner.
okay, now here's something that might feel a bit strange. The book talks about boundaries and needing a separate life for the codependent partner.
Yes, and this often feels really counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Totally. Because you might have spent years focused entirely on your partner's addiction or their recovery. So the idea of, why do I need a separate life now? Aren't we supposed to be doing this together?
Exactly. Berg uses the term enmeshment to describe that state where you're almost fused together, just hanging on for dear life.
Right.
And trying to separate from that creates what she calls a double bind. It's a tough spot.
Double bind, meaning,
Meaning it's incredibly painful and draining to stay enmeshed,
yeah,
where your whole identity is tied up with them. But it's also really painful, maybe even scary, to start pulling away and building your own separate life. You feel caught.
So how do you navigate that? Does the book offer practical steps?
It does. One technique is the mindful walk away.
Walk away, like leave the argument.
It's not necessarily about storming out or avoiding conflict altogether. It's about mindfully recognizing when a boundary is needed, either yours or your partner's, in that specific moment.
Can you give an example?
Sure, maybe your partner genuinely needs some space to process something. Or maybe you need to step back because the conversation is becoming abusive. Or you just feel completely overwhelmed and reactive. It's about hitting pause, intentionally, with mindfulness.
Okay, a mindful pause. What else?
Another suggestion is simply acting like a separate person. Taking concrete, maybe small-seeming actions.
Like what?
The book suggests things like try a 2-day challenge. Do nothing for your partner that they can absolutely do for themselves. Or intentionally don't track where they are all the time. Make plans with your own friends alone. Maybe even just have different sleep schedules sometimes.
It sounds like small steps towards reclaiming independence.
Exactly. And another big one is mindfully engaging in a hobby.
Hobby, how does that help?
It's not just about filling time. The purpose is actually quite profound. It's about actively redefining who you are, separate from the relationship. Learning to enjoy your own company.
Building autonomy.
Yes. Building that inner autonomy, that kind of backbone against the pull of enmeshment. And Berg points out, it makes you more confident and, frankly, more interesting as a person and a partner.
But it has to be mindful engagement.
Yes, that's key. Not just zoning out or escaping from the relationship, but doing something purely for your own enjoyment, your own self-discovery. Could be anything, playing music, hiking, dancing, painting, gardening.
Got it. What about journaling?
Highly recommended in the book. The idea is that the physical act of writing engages the prefrontal cortex.
The thinking part of the brain.
Right, the more rational part.
Yeah.
It helps you process thoughts and feelings separate from the more reactive emotional centers. The book suggests prompts like reflecting on what separate actions felt easy or hard, what you're learning, feeling, hoping for.
There's even a challenge mentioned.
Yeah, 30-day journaling challenge with the idea of rewarding yourself afterwards. It's about building the habit.
Okay, so as the partner starts doing this work, building their own foundation, what happens emotionally?
Well, this is often when a lot of buried stuff comes up for the codependent partner. As the person in recovery gets healthier, that intense focus shifts, and suddenly...
The partner's own pain surfaces.
Exactly. Suppressed sadness, old hurts, maybe trauma, anger, feelings that were perhaps overshadowed by the constant crisis or focus on the addiction.
The book differentiates between moods and emotions, right?
Yes, a helpful distinction. Moods are described as longer-lasting, less specific states, while emotions are typically shorter and tied to a specific trigger.
And addiction affects brain chemistry.
Right, impacting neurotransmitters. This often contributes to difficult moods for the person in recovery. But the partner can experience similar mood challenges too, especially when you factor in their own history and the stress they've endured.
And the book brings up PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes, and this is crucial. Living with the chaos and unpredictability of active addiction can be genuinely traumatic for the partner.
What are the signs?
Berg describes symptoms like chronic anxiety, maybe being easily startled, physical issues like headaches or stomach problems, and those really intense moments where something triggers an old memory.
An implicit memory.
Yeah, one you might not even consciously recall, but it triggers strong physical or emotional reactions, making you feel like the past trauma is happening right now.
That sounds incredibly difficult.
It is, and the book stresses that recognizing and getting help for PTSD is vital. Otherwise, it can pull you right back into old patterns or even lead you to end the relationship when maybe it could be saved.
Are treatments mentioned?
Things like EMDR are mentioned. And importantly, Berg highlights the healing power of a partner simply being calm, present, and soothing, acting as a grounding force. Mindfulness practices like mindful walking or writing about feelings are also suggested for managing these difficult states.
Okay, so we've talked about understanding the landscape, building your own foundation. What about how the couple actually interacts? Communication must be huge.
Absolutely huge. The book really zeroes in on shifting communication styles, moving from reactive to responsive.
Reactive. That sounds like what happens in most arguments.
Pretty much. Speaking or acting without really thinking, rashly, often focused only on your own feelings, maybe with yelling or a harsh tone. It leads to defensiveness, shutting down, more arguments, and erodes trust.
The book mentions rapport breakers.
Yeah, specific things like criticizing someone's tone of voice instead of their message, or whining, things that just shut down connection.
So responsive is the goal. What does that look like?
It's communication with clear intention, focused on connection. It means really listening, actively trying to understand. It means finding ways to calm yourself down when things get heated.
And expressing negative feelings constructively.
Exactly. Expressing negativity in a way that can actually be heard and hopefully lead to cooperation, rather than just needing to win the argument or be right.
That sounds hard, especially now.
It is hard. The book even notes that our fast-paced, tech-driven culture makes it harder. We're conditioned for impatience. So, mindfully choosing to listen deeply is framed as almost an act of resistance.
Is there an example for this too?
Yes, Lucy and Albert. Their story shows just how stuck couples can get in those reactive cycles,
Yeah.
where every interaction seems to go wrong.
And how hard it is to change.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It highlights the courage needed to, 1, stand up for yourself and your needs, but 2, Do it while also pausing your own reactivity, the delicate balance.
The book suggests an exercise for this.
The mindful visualization for self-empowerment. Basically, practicing responsive reactions in your mind first, rehearsing how you want to handle difficult moments.
What about resentment? That feels like a major communication killer.
Oh, huge roadblock. The book uses Betsy and Ted's example. Betsy simmers with resentment. Ted withdraws because of it, which makes Betsy more resentful. A vicious cycle.
How do you break that?
Berg offers what she calls the anatomy of an apology. It's designed specifically to cut through resentment and rebuild rapport. It has two parts.
Okay, part one.
Part one is giving the apology. When your partner says you hurt them, even if you think they're being unfair, even if you think they started it, you say, "I'm sorry," immediately.
No buts or excuses?
No buts. No, "I'm sorry, but you." Just acknowledge their hurt right away. It's not about keeping score. It's about stopping resentment before it festers.
Okay. And part two?
Receiving the apology. When your partner apologizes, you accept it.
Yeah.
Immediately. You drop the issue, at least for that moment.
Even if the apology feels weak or insincere.
Even then, according to Berg,
Yeah.
you accept the gesture first. You can maybe gently talk about how they apologize later, if needed, but the immediate step is acceptance. Just say thank you and move on for now. It stops you from holding on to the grudge.
That requires a lot of letting go.
It does. It's a practice.
Okay, so moving into some deeper dimensions. The book tackles intimacy and sex in recovery, right? That must be a sensitive area.
Very sensitive and often intimidating for couples. There's a lot that can affect desire.
Like what?
Well, things like self-esteem or just different sexual styles or needs. Low desire itself can be an issue. Fear can play a big role. And of course, the impact of past trauma or any infidelity is huge.
So what's the approach?
It involves reclaiming your own sexual identity.
Yeah.
Figuring out what you actually enjoy, what feels good to you, separate from worrying about your partner's reaction or approval.
And talking about it.
Yes, mindful conversation about preferences, desires, fears, that's encouraged.
Are there specific practices mentioned?
Briefly, yes. Things like the breath of fire exercise or something called the mindful sleigh ride are mentioned as ways couples might explore connecting physically or energetically.
And the past stuff, like trauma or infidelity.
The book acknowledges how deeply wounding those things are. The betrayal, the broken trust. Rebuilding trust is presented as a patient, often very slow process. There are even reflection questions provided, like the Mindfully Exploring Past Infidelity Guide, to help individuals process and maybe eventually talk about it.
What about spirituality? How does that fit in?
It's presented as a really core part of recovery, actually, for both the person with addiction and the partner. Berg defines it quite broadly, like filling the hole in the soul.
Filling a void?
Yeah, the idea being that addiction and codependency are often attempts to fill some kind of inner spiritual emptiness with, substances, behaviors, or another person.
What if someone's skeptical, like maybe had bad experiences with religion?
The book totally acknowledges that skepticism. It encourages setting aside preconceived notions and being open to a broader sense of spirituality.
So not necessarily religious.
Not at all. It suggests that even atheists or agnostics can find spirituality through mindful actions that help them cope, build resilience, and cultivate faith in the relationship's potential to heal and grow.
Is grieving part of this?
Yes, grieving the losses is seen as part of the spiritual journey. Letting go of lost time, lost trust, maybe a lost sense of innocence, and finding a life-affirming perspective, seeing your story not as failure, but as survival, strength, and growing compassion.
How do you cultivate spirituality practically?
Through action-oriented practices, spending time in nature, doing service for others, practicing gratitude, maybe prayer or meditation if that resonates. The book briefly describes a connect with faith meditation and the practice of prayer as options.
Okay. The book also talks about relapse, but not just for the person with the addiction.
Right, it discusses emotional relapse, specifically for the partner, the one who might identify with codependent patterns.
What does that mean, emotional relapse?
It's basically slipping back into old ways of coping, using those familiar controlling behaviors or maybe neglecting your own needs again as a way to deal with stress, difficult feelings, or negative situations, even if the partner is actually doing well in their recovery.
Are there signs to look out for?
Yes, the book lists indicators. And interestingly, the triggers are often just everyday life stuff. Minor inconveniences, feeling unsupported, or even just getting complacent about your own growth work.
How do you break out of it if you notice it happening?
The strategies include consciously choosing mindful, positive actions, maybe doing the opposite of what your negative feeling tells you to do, like doing something kind for yourself or your partner when you feel resentful.
Reaching out for support.
Definitely. Reconnecting with support systems, Al-Anon, a sponsor, trusted friends, and engaging in service to others is often recommended too, to shift the focus outwards.
That brings us to community, doesn't it?
Yes, the importance of community is really emphasized. Humans are wired for connection. We need belonging. The book even cites research on this.
So groups like Al-Anon or RCA.
They're presented as vital. A recovery community acts like, Berg calls it an insurance policy, against emotional relapse. It provides support, understanding, shared experience.
Does our background affect how comfortable we are with groups?
Yeah, the book touches on how family of origin experiences can influence that. And it encourages mindfully thinking about and creating your future community, maybe spending time with other couples who are also navigating recovery.
Okay, one last big question. That one that probably gnaws at a lot of people. Am I with the right partner? Does the book tackle that?
It does, head on. It acknowledges how persistent and frankly agonizing that question can be.
And what's the answer?
Well, the book is very clear. No one else can answer that for you. It requires really deep, honest self-reflection. There's mention of an exercise called deal breakers to help you get clear on your own non-negotiables.
But what if you decide you are committed?
Then there's this really powerful idea. If you, after doing the work, decide you're in, there's immense value in sending a clear, strong message to your own brain.
Like telling yourself.
Something like, okay, I'm here, I'm committed to this journey. The partner I have is the partner I'm choosing. End of story.
Why is that helpful?
Because giving your brain that firm instruction can actually quiet down that constant questioning loop. It frees up mental and emotional energy to actually focus on building the relationship you've chosen. There's even a mindful meditation suggested for internalizing this commitment.
Wow, okay. That covers an incredible amount of ground. From the basics of addiction and codependency, the absolute need for the partner to build their own foundation with mindfulness and boundaries.
Right, then shifting communication from reactive to responsive, exploring those deeper areas like intimacy and spirituality.
And finally, recognizing the power of community and making that conscious commitment. It's a lot.
It really underscores that recovery, for everyone involved, isn't about hitting some perfect state. It's about, like Berg says, getting better and better at living life together in the real world.
So maybe a final thought to leave you, our listener, with drawing from all this. Consider this. What if the very difficulties of loving someone in recovery, the things that force you maybe to confront your own past, build strengths you didn't know you had, learn completely new ways of relating, what if those are the very things that could ultimately lead to a depth of self-awareness, a resilience, a kind of connection that you might never have found otherwise?
It's not just recovery from something negative.
Exactly. It's potentially a recovery to something richer, a more authentic way of being for both people involved.
A really powerful idea to sit with as you navigate your own path.